to Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Hello and welcome, friends. I'm Shauna Corden, and I'm glad to have you here on the Playbook for Performance podcast. Our mission is to make work fun again by building better leaders. This month's theme is all about building a coaching culture. And if you have a specific question on building a coaching culture, email us and we can add it to our social media. Just drop a note to podcast@shaunacorden.com. Now, last week we talked about making the most of your coaching dollars by introducing coaching properly. And today we're talking about do's and don'ts for your coaching program. You can think of these as hallmarks of successful programs and pitfalls that have kept programs from being what they could have been. So let's start with who gets coaching. This is part of your strategy. Coaching is an investment. It's a tool to solve problems. It should be reserved for your very best as you begin. I heartily recommend beginning with leaders, decision makers, sponsors, as we want them to have a strong idea of what coaching really is and the power of it versus what they think it might be, most likely mentoring or advising. Once you have your leaders on board, then begin with the area you most want to leverage. Is it top talent, new to job, minority leaders? In all cases, it should be billed as a privilege, something people really yearn for and feel special to receive. What are some common pitfalls in the who area? When leaders assign coaches to their problems, those who need performance management, they rob the organization twice. Those who really deserve it don't get it, and it suggests that coaching is for those who need help. Then the organization really has a hard time turning that branding around. What do they target in coaching? This is also part of the strategy of the program. Fulfilling potential. We want every top performer to engineer their days to spend time in the most strategic and important areas, not the urgent or top of mind. We want to be particular. Some coaches use an assessment to determine areas of strength or weakness, such as the 360. Some conduct feed-forward interviews, and some simply observe the candidate in action. Myself, I interview my clients, I use assessments if it's the standard in the organization, and I ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do they think they're fulfilling their capacity? I used to ask them how satisfied or how well they were mastering the area. Later, I learned that this may not be the best measure, especially if the client had low standards. Then I follow up with, what would it take to make this area a 10? And what they name, and I've never had a client struggle with naming it, those tend to be the session topics. Generally, each client has 3 major focus areas for the engagement. And this is a coaching term for the duration of the coaching. And our topics are those hurdles it would take to make those focus areas a 10. What are the pitfalls? Working on weaknesses. We don't focus on them unless they're truly impeding progress. Working on the top of mind or urgent topics versus the truly strategic and important. Straying into personal items for too long. We definitely want to address anything preventing their focus on their work, but it should be an exception. And anything lasting more than a session or 2, that topic should probably be diverted to an employee assistance program. Not measuring the baseline for those 3 focus areas could also be a pitfall. We need to know where we started to understand how far we've come. So why have a coaching program? What's the purpose? Coaching does something for your brain that advising or training doesn't do. It allows for new pathways and identities to be created, challenges to assumptions that are being treated as facts, and partnering for results. Because the coach doesn't have an agenda, the solutions are solely the client's. And research shows when the idea is our own, We take more ownership and pride in those ideas and have greater follow-through. This is why that telling that comes from advising or consulting when it comes to how to solve a problem is not as robust of a solution. What are the pitfalls around purpose? Poor coach training or poor coach performance that slips into giving advice, leading the witness, or advocating for a particular solution. When coaches do not have proper mentoring, follow-up supervision, and client call reviews, they may fall prey to poor habits with their clients. What's another hallmark? The how. Each coaching program should have a center of excellence. Think of this as the standards of the program. This is a headquarters of sorts that keeps the standards of the program high. This includes standard operating procedures, documentation, ethics, training, continuing education, mentoring, and supervision activities. This group should determine the experience and training levels that each coach should have before qualifying to coach at a certain level. And they should also be making assessments of the coach's capabilities and areas for development. What's a pitfall in the area of standards? An absence of a center of excellence guarantees each coach using their own agreements, different standards, a lack of baseline measures, and a different experience for every client. Imagine a choir without the same sheet music and without assigning different roles. It would be difficult to speak for the results of the program or to tout any benefits at all. How will you keep your program continually running after the excitement and passion of your leader or sponsor when they leave? This is sustainability. How will you sustain your program? This comes in forms both of multiple stakeholders, sponsors with successors, and a line item on the budget. We don't want this to be a temporary endeavor based on a leader's passion. Organizations with these pillars in place continue to invest in their coaching programs year after year successfully. Pitfalls in this area? Treating coaching like an element to take place with a surplus budget or borrowing from another's area. Only having one sponsor and not multiple stakeholders. Passion just isn't enough. So how will you know your program's successful? Are you measuring your baselines, comparing the before and after? Are you tracking the investment? And are you isolating the intervention to solely coaching so you don't mix the return with other interventions such as training? Many coaching programs have over 1,000% ROI, but if you don't track it, how will you know? Anecdotal Yelp-like reviews may make the program popular, but it won't keep it from being cut in a budget crisis. What are the pitfalls in impact? Not measuring the program in all manners. Be sure to measure your strategic areas, such as retention before and after. Measure individuals before and after, and track spending. A great place to start with measuring your program is the highly used Kirkpatrick model, used often with training programs. A final caution on your impact: those who don't promote the results of their programs tend to be lumped in with company picnics and other fun items, but not serious performance-enhancing efforts. If you need help coaching or kicking off your coaching program with a project plan and what to look out for, both hallmarks and pitfalls, I'm available. Just contact me at shauna@shaunacorden.com. This brings us to our tool of the week. Begin with the end in mind for your coaching program. Covey's habit works for this too. What is it that you want your coaching program to achieve? Retention of top talent, attraction of innovative leaders, transforming the culture from tell to ask. Flesh out all the elements of the program. How will things be different than how they are now? Less command and control? Lower stress levels? More fun? Leaders knowing that they don't need to know it all. A coaching culture can be a great way to run your organization for results and satisfaction. So here's your field work, because coaching without action isn't coaching, it's just entertainment. Consider the most important piece of your organization, critical to the success and longevity of the team. Are they capable of more? Not in the number of hours worked, but in the intelligence of the activities. Could they be more strategic, achieve more? What if that piece grew 20%? What would that be worth to you? Would you be willing to do an experiment? Consider coaching for that tool to achieve that 20% growth. Each week in the podcast, I like to highlight a leader doing it well in the news or from a listener and one that had a wobble. If you'd like to nominate your organization, please email me at podcast@shaunacorden.com. This week, we all saw one of the coaching pitfalls I previously mentioned in action at the Olympics. The favored gold medal winner in the figure skating event falling to fourth place. And all witnessed the tell, sell, yell approach of the Russian coach. No room for compassion, no room for thinking on behalf of our young skater. This is what it feels like to be in a command and control culture. Your goal is to keep your head down and stay out of trouble. And now, most likely, our young skater with so much potential will likely leave. And that's what talent does when it's made to cower for too long. That's all for this week. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, give us a rating, tell your friends. And if you'd like to hear more about a topic that would make your work fun by improving the leaders in your organization, please drop us a line at podcast@shaunacorden.com. Until next week, take good care.
Thank you for listening to Playbook for Performance. To learn more about Shauna Corden, her consulting programs and tools, please visit her website at shaunacorden.com and follow us on social media at Shauna Corden.